Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that it overall improves our financial success. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Money Mindset. In today's episode, obviously it's a knee-jerk reaction due to the 0.25 increase in interest. And what do we do with this? How do we actually, as investors or people wanting to become an investor, understand where is this going to end, and what do we do with our current properties, or what sort of property do we buy? What do we do in all this? So it's completely understandable if you're feeling frustration from the recent RBA rate hike. It's just another 0.25 bump, taking the official rate to 4.1% as of March in 2026, right? So it puts a real squeeze on household budgets, obviously, and shifts landscape for anyone looking to enter or exit the property market. So what we want to do in this fast episode is find out exactly what are the things to look out for. What do we do? How do we action something rather than just sitting back and going, oh, this is all bad and everything like that? What do we have to do? So realistically, you've got to look at the data, the market, the mechanics to give you practical, straightforward advice on how to handle the shift. Now, most of you don't really have the time to do that. In my role, obviously, I do. And what I take on all this, being an investor or a broker myself and seeing other people in the thick of it, is to sort of, first of all, have a look at your rate. Don't just take and assume that the bank that you're with is doing the right thing by you. By no means. Banks are out there to make money. They're also out there to hold their clients and do well by their clients. So they're not this big, awful thing, but they are a business. They're there to make money. And in times of trouble, most of you with a mortgage or investment property, especially with land tax and that on the increase, expenses are just at their peak where we really are feeling the pinch. So look, banks are notoriously quick to pass on the 0.25 simply because they can't afford to lose profits and so on and so forth, right? It's a business. However, they do have a loyalty, and their existing customers, well, when they say there is a loyalty tax, what I say, where existing customers pay higher rates than new ones, that's a bit silly by anyone's mean, but once again, they're a business. So make sure you do the right thing for yourself and actually look at your rates and your repayments. Now, if you're unsure about repayments and what you should be paying and everything, it does sort of, people that aren't good with maths or don't really understand what's going on, I'm here to, I can translate that. I'm not saying anything, I can pressure test it, but there are also calculators out there that can help you try and understand what it all means, as in principal and interest and so on and so forth. So you know where I'm going with that. Now, if you think, well, hey, this is all too hard, I don't know any mortgage brokers, or I don't know if the bank can help me, call your bank immediately and say, guys, what can I do about this? Do you have any options? Now, a lot of the time when this happens, just be careful, mindful that they don't start hitting your credit file thinking that, well, you guys are making an inquiry, we're going to start poking around and finding some rates for you, and often that can upset your credit file, right? So it goes on your credit report that you made an inquiry. Not that it's a be or lender, but sometimes some people can't afford to have too many inquiries on their credit report because they're actively always looking for whatever it may be. If it may be, there could be a property developer or whatever that may be, an investor, or they're just trying to find the right bank or person to speak to find out more about what the hell do I do with my interest rate? So anyway, the other thing is to also make sure that you're maximizing your offset or redraw facilities. So what does all that mean? So obviously with increasing the interest rates and all that, what we've got to do is find out if you've got emergency savings or spare cash sitting in a standard savings account. So even a high yield one or something like that, it's likely earning less interest than your mortgage is costing you after the tax. And what I mean by that is simply that if you've got some funds that are sitting in a cumulative interest bearing, sorry, I'll start that again. If you've got funds sitting in an account that actually is earning you interest and paying you, let's say 4.5%, and your interest rate on your mortgage is 6.5, well, basically you're -2 behind the 8 ball. What you could be doing is putting that money that's in the higher interest earning into your mortgage and helping reduce the overall interest cost of your home loan. Now, you can either put it into your redraw or offset. Once again, ask your bank before you're doing all this, before depositing and all that, to really make sure that you ask anyone if you're unsure of what you're doing with it as a financial advisor or an accountant before you start mucking around with that sort of thing. But the main thing here and the purpose of it all is to reduce the cost and expense of that mortgage, whether it be an investment or your owner occupied. Now, if you don't have a mortgage and you're thinking of saving towards a property, but you don't want to buy right now because of what's going on and you're scared or you're unsure, well, yeah, those high interest accounts that are accumulating, interest that make you a lot more money just rather than sitting in a normal bank account that's actually making you money, well, that's probably the best way. There are other ways of obviously investing your money and getting a higher return, but if you do have a mortgage, always compare what your mortgage is and what it's costing you. Obviously, those who investment property want to make sure that that investment property does have gearing effects and all that. So ask your accountant guys before doing that. If you are buying, the other thing is to recalculate your borrowing capacity immediately. So every time the RBA raises the cash rate, banks adjust the minimum stress test. So what that means is they basically just sort of say, well, okay, today you can borrow, let's just say, a $500,000 loan, but with this 0.25 increase, you can only borrow 475. So that's a real rough estimation, but it will decrease the loan amount. So your serviceability will obviously toughen up. Now, there was talk with APRA not too long ago, I remember reading it somewhere, that they will be looking at trying to help people with this, but who knows, it's all hearsay at the moment. Now, going back to serviceability, what you want to do is say, well, look, let's have a look at this. Normally, the current rate plus the 3% buffer, and what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, your interest rate is 5.75 at the moment. You're anticipating that it's going to go up by 0.25. Some banks don't carry the full 0.25% increase. Some only go 0.2. Some don't. Obviously, your mortgage broker will know what to do with that. I can help you with that. The other thing is also typically a current rate of, call it 5.75. The bank will place a 3% buffer on that in the background to pressure test your serviceability. So what that means is, as opposed to pressure testing, you're saying, well, I can afford 5.75. Even if it goes to 5.9, let's say, as an example, what the bank do in the background is add a 3%. So it actually becomes 8.9%. And they base your serviceability on 8.9% in that example. Yeah, so 3% buffer. Some only put a 2%, some only put a 1%, some put no percent. So there are, look, it swings and roundabouts with a lot of these banks, but it just means a lot of people do quite often ask me, I can afford it. Why don't the banks give me the loan? Or why are they doing that? Why can't I refinance to a cheaper rate? That's why, guys. But once again, it may not just be that. So now it's sort of that 0.25 that's anticipated and will come our way will shrink your maximum borrowing capacity. So just double check that. If you have a pre-approval from before the mid-March hike sort of thing, then contact your broker or your bank immediately. Like, ensure your budget hasn't dropped below the price bracket you're shopping in. So what I mean by that is basically, if you've got been pre-approved for 500,000, using that example, and all of a sudden the 0.25, you can only now borrow 475, well, you've got to come up with that shortfall of 25 if you've purchased or thinking of purchase. So readjust and speak to your broker immediately, right? So the other thing is, what I say is leverage the cooled competition. So higher rates naturally thin out the buyer pool because fewer people can secure large loans, right? So as a buyer, you can use this to your advantage. And what I mean by it is you are less likely to face intense emotionally driven bidding wars at auctions. So take a breath, avoid the fear of missing out type of thing, what I always say to my clients, and negotiate firmly. Make sure that you're in the stance, because look, look, you're not the only one getting this 0.25 increase. A lot of people facing not wanting to go into market, even though stock levels could be short, which they are at the moment, sort of speaking nationally type of thing. Generally, it still means that you could be winning better at auctions simply because there are less people looking to buy. They're scared or whatever it may be. And vendors who need to sell might be more willing to accept a sensible offer now rather than risk their property, languishing on the market forever or who knows how long, right? So make sure you do have a look at that. Very important, guys, especially if you're looking to buy or even sell for that matter. So be wise. Now, last of all, if you are thinking of selling, so price realistically, and like what I mean by that is obviously put on the market, do your research, speak to all the agents, and make sure that you do have a realistic approach to this when you are going to prepare to sell your property, and prepare for a longer campaign. So if they're saying, hey guys, if the agent turns up and says we can sell this in a month or two, maybe slap a few more months on that for your figures. I always pressure test my clients, their predicament at the time. So if they're saying, well, the agent's saying 30 days, I probably say let's do the figures for 90 days. Honestly, a month is a long time when you're feeling the pinch. Even a couple of days you don't sleep, feeling the pinch because the finance is awful. So always make sure your broker or your bank or accountant, financial advisor is realistic, and they advise you on the realistic ways of making sure your cash flow is okay. Buyers are dealing with reduced borrowing power now. So the higher monthly repayments, they are more price sensitive. So you cannot rely on what similar house sold down the road or whatever like that be for a year or two ago. So what I'm saying is, if your neighbour just recently sold and there's a high demand, well, obviously with this going on in the background, they're not probably, chances are you're not going to sell as competitively as what your neighbour has, sort of thing. But look, stranger things have happened. Now, you need to price your property based on the reality of today's 4.1% cash rate environment. So everyone's under the same, all ships are rising and lowering, so to speak. Ensure your home is immaculately presented, right? Make sure that it's the one that stands out. Be transparent with your agent about your bottom line. Don't always just go, oh, look, make sure that the communication is there, and mentally prepare for your property to stay on the market a little longer than it may have during the most recent boom or anything like that, right? So I hope this helps. Look, it's never a one answer that's going to help with all this. It's a multitude of different answers at different stages of where you are in your finances. Make sure that you're on it. Don't just put it away and say, well, it'll be all right, thanks, Jack. Really make sure that you speak to your team, your accountants, your brokers, whatever, your trusted team that can help you with this, your family, whoever you believe that can help you guys, guide you through it. Once again, I'm always here to do that. A simple phone call doesn't mean that I've got to carry on and all that. A 5-minute phone call often will help you take the direction, even if it's a 1 degree direction in your choice or wherever you're thinking of doing with your properties or buying one. Just let me know, guys, and hopefully it all works out for you. Take care, and see you on the next episode.